everybody, Moses here. I just wanted to make a little video. I just bought this new little gadget, make it a little easier for me to shoot video as I walk around, and I just kind of wanted to talk about things, I guess. I don't really know what I wanted to do with this video, but I was tired of sitting in my hotel room and I was tired of doing nothing, so I figured I would get out here and get out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is kind of the theme of today's video, getting out of your comfort zone. I guess more or less this video stems from the question I get a lot, which is, how do you become a content creator? How do you become big on Twitch? How do you get big on YouTube? How do you become a caster? All these questions I've been asked a couple of times, and I've never really had an answer because it's kind of hard for me to answer it in a way that makes sense to regular people or people that haven't done it, or really anyone who just feels uncomfortable with the fact of being on camera or putting themselves out there. So I'm, for the most part, putting myself out there, walking around talking to my camera like a lunatic, which is one of the many traits that is required when you want to get into this stuff. So a year ago, I was still getting started, and a little bit before that, I was nothing. I hadn't started my channel, I hadn't done anything. I'd watch people like Summit, Shroud, a lot of other streamers who had just started or were blowing up or who had been there for a long time, and it wasn't really an inspirational thing. It was more of a, hey man, these guys can do this thing, why can't I do it? So I started a YouTube channel, and ... here we are. So what does it take? What is the secret to success? Well, there isn't one, really. I think the unifying factor among all streamers, all content creators, is work ethic and the desire to be successful, kind of married with either natural talent, humor, or whatever they find to be entertaining. There's lots of different people out there that have done different things. But the one thing it isn't is easy. You can't just turn on the camera. You can't just hope that it comes. You have to work at it every single day. You have to do things that you're not comfortable with sometimes, like walking around outside, talking to a camera, or I don't know, streaming every day, or figuring out the fact that it's not going to just come overnight. You have to always be working at it. You always have to be doing something. And that's where the people that are small or unsuccessful diverge from those that are successful. I was working a full-time job when I started, and I continued to work that job until I was in a position I could quit. But between those two times was a lot of overlap, a lot of things that you might not actually like doing, like staying up late to edit a video or stream when there's nobody watching, or just watching those numbers never quite increase the way you want them to. Those are all things that you have to be ready to deal with, and a lot of the time it's not something that people are comfortable with doing. It's hard to see failure, but failure is a part of the process, a big part of the process. I fail a lot. I still fail to this day. Sometimes a cast doesn't go well. Sometimes it just doesn't work, whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's something you have to reconcile with yourself. So I guess if you're watching this video, I'm sure you're interested in becoming a content creator, or maybe you've already started doing it and you're trying to figure out how to be successful, how to get those first 1,000 subs, those first 10 viewers, whatever it is. And that's the hardest part, honestly, is getting started, because I think a lot of people get into it assuming that because they have a webcam, because they have a Twitch account, they can kind of do it and just be successful. And maybe they can. I mean, there's people out there that are born to be successful, but the work ethic, the desire to do more, that's where a lot of people falter, I think, when they realize that over those months, over those sometimes years, that just something just doesn't happen. Maybe they just never quite make it. Maybe they feel downtrodden and feel like they have to quit. But the one thing that I think is super important when it comes to this stuff is knowing what works and knowing what doesn't. And sometimes your original ideas, whatever they might be, just don't work, and you have to change. In my case, it was Twitch and YouTube. It was working, but I saw an opportunity to do something that no one else really had wanted to at that stage, which was cast PUBG. And that was really rewarding for me. But that's also something that not everyone can or wants to do. But those two things just kind of happened. I just started doing it. And I think finding and identifying opportunity is another big part of content creating, streaming, all that stuff. Finding the right people to work with, building the right skills, the right relationships, all things you need to consider. Relationships are super important too, by the way. If you have an opportunity to go to a con, PAX, anything that's close to you or anything you want to go there and talk to people. It's really important to build those relationships. Don't be shy to punch above your weight as well. Sometimes you think, well, they don't want to talk to me. They're way bigger than I am. They bring a lot more to the table. They have a bigger following. Those are the people you want to be friends with. And not for any reason other than to just be friends. Don't be fake. Don't just walk up to someone, Shroud, Choco Taco, whoever it is. Don't expect them to give you anything. You have to bring something to the table. Be a good person, be friendly, all those things, but just network. And sometimes it'll be networking with other small streamers as well. I think the most important thing I can say is just be yourself. But be yourself in the way that you want to be perceived as well. If I was just myself, I'd be boring. It really took a lot to kind of become more animated, be more talkative, trying to be more funny, whatever it is, entertaining. But sometimes the person you are day to day is not the person you have to be on camera. Dr. Disrespect is a good example of that. He managed to separate those two things. And I think you should probably do the same if you feel uncomfortable. I think that's the one thing that streaming gives you, or YouTube or whatever gives you, is the ability to separate your real personality from your on-screen personality. And that can be very rewarding and freeing. So take that risk, try something wacky, do something that you're not comfortable with, and give it a shot. You never know, it might work. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the stuff that a lot of people don't talk about, which is the sacrifice side of things. Let's say you do get some success. And for the sake of being selfish, I'll use myself as an example. I gave up a lot to do what I do. A lot of personal health stuff, stopped working out. I mean, this is not an excuse. This is something that you eventually have to learn to reincorporate into your life. But when you're working a full-time job and trying to do content creation on the side, sometimes you just don't find time to go to the gym. Sometimes you're not getting the right amount of sleep. Sometimes you're not eating the right things. If you're going to do this, do it right from the beginning. Keep that stuff a part of your life, because eventually you'll realize that you've subtracted some very important things, and that can affect you later on. Your health, your mental wellness, whatever it might be, it can affect you. So if you're going to go headlong into this thing, if you're going to try and go full-time, if you're going to incorporate a full-time streaming schedule or full-time YouTube content, whatever it is, into an already busy life, you have to do the math, and that's a part of the work ethic. And sometimes you have to do stuff that you just don't want to do. And for me, that was going to the gym, and that's something that I have to reincorporate into my life. And so my advice to you is keep that going, or start it now, even if it's not something you do already. Take care of yourself. So I suppose this is the part of the video where I say that anyone can do it. Anyone can be successful if they try hard enough, and that if you do your best and be yourself and all the things I've talked about so far, that you'll be successful. Well, I can tell you that that's not true. There are a lot of stories and a lot of examples out there where people have just never made it. It just never worked out for them for one reason or another, either by some stroke of bad luck, lack of work ethic. You never know what it could be. There is a very real chance that you might just not make it, and that's something that you have to be comfortable with if you're going to take this thing and take it seriously. Is that no matter how hard you work, sometimes you just won't succeed. But if you have the drive, the effort, all the things required, a little bit of extra cash too, keep that in mind, there's a very real possibility that you could be successful. I know a lot of people that just started and it worked out for them, and it could be you as well, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of failure. So keep that in mind. One other thing I'd like to mention before I sign off is don't do it for the money. Do it for the freedom of being your own boss. Do it for the freedom of getting out of that 9-to-5 you hate. Do it for the creative side of you that just maybe was repressed for the longest time, that you just wanted to find an outlet for. There's no better time now to be a creative person, to be taking risks on that sort of thing. It's very accessible. You can do it with a cell phone. You can start very small. Don't invest too heavily. Don't spend all your money on fancy equipment. Just do it and see what sticks. Learn and grow slowly. because it doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes, like I said, it doesn't happen at all. So don't put yourself in a position where you can fail and take people with you, friends, family, whatever. But go into it and stay strong. It's going to be hard for the first little bit, but I think you can do it. So I think that's enough out of me, guys. Hopefully this video finds the right person, even if it's just one or two. Because sometimes that's all you're creating content for, is just some guy who needs to see the right video at the right time, or that subscriber who just identifies with you as a person. Do it for those people. That's it, guys. Hopefully this was a video that works. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.